All right, grab your favorite mug. It's time for Coffee with Your Retirement Coach.
Welcome to Coffee with Your Retirement Coach. Behind the clipboards today, Randy Yeomans.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, welcome, Randy. And for our audience, I'm Nick Yeomans, and we're glad to be with you. But if you're watching, you're probably noticing we're missing somebody.
Yeah, Aaron Calhoun's not with us today, so we're on our own. This could be dangerous.
Could be very dangerous.
Yeah.
But we're probably going to get some feedback and criticism because I'm pretty sure half of our audience just tunes in to see or listen to Aaron.
Yeah, I think that's probably true, and rightly so.
Rightly so. Today, I'm excited about our conversation. We're going to dive into, especially with this time of year, Thanksgiving is coming upon us, this idea of tying Thanksgiving and thankfulness and gratitude with our personal economics. And we've got a great conversation. I know, Randy, you and I, even before this started, we started diving into it, and I almost wish we had started recording because there's so much good content here that I think is going to be really valuable for our audience.
Yeah, I think so, and it is the right time of year to do it.
Yeah. Well, before we dive into the content, any big plans for Thanksgiving?
We're going to have some family over. Right now, they're painting my living area, so everything's covered in plastic, so it could be a different Thanksgiving than normal, but I'm going to be thankful when the painting's done.
Well, I know some of the people that are coming over for that Thanksgiving dinner. You might want to leave the plastic on the furniture.
I hope they don't listen to this.
If they do, I love you. I love you. We're doing something cool we've never done before.
Yeah, what's that?
Yeah. So my family and I and another friend and his family, we're all going to New York. We're going to do the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Wow, that's cool. Are you guys going to have your own stuff?
Our own stuff?
Yeah, in the parade?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
Purely spectating.
Okay.
But we're really excited. The kids are excited. It's going to be a fun age to do that kind of thing. But
I've never done that. That's great.
Yeah. Well,
what inspired that, Nick?
Yeah, Suzette and one of her really great friends, one of her best friends, for over a decade, they've been talking about, how cool it would be to actually be there and see it in person. And with my oldest, as a senior in high school, we thought, if not now, when?
Boy,
right?
I'm not kidding. They grow up fast, don't they?
Yeah. So we're taking the trip.
Nice. A little plug for a previous podcast.
Nice callback, right?
No shame at all.
No. So Randy, as we kind of get into this, I think God has given us a spirit of thanksgiving, and we're called to this spirit of being thankful.
Yeah.
And it's so easy, especially during the holidays, to get so busy in the hustle and bustle and everything, and the busyness of the season. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to just pause and count our blessings.
Yeah, and one of the things about that, and that's not just this time of year, but in life in general, we talk a little bit about how you can get so caught up in all the to-do lists, all the things to be done, and not recognize how many things you've accomplished, how blessed you are. So pausing and offering thanks and gratitude and reflecting is something that we've used it in the firm. I've used it in my personal life. Try to share that with other people because it really does reset your life when you take that attitude of gratitude.
Oh, 100%. Now, I thought this was interesting. You and I both being believers, there's a scripture, 1 Thessalonians 5:18, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God and Christ Jesus for you. And I just thought, that's literally a calling.
It is, but it's not always easy.
Yeah.
And I think the cares of the world sometimes get in our way. And, everybody is busy today. If you ask people what's going on, I'm busy. Well, everybody's busy, but we all get the same amount of time. So one thing I try to do, I'm not perfect at this, but end of the day and beginning of the day, I try to take time to think about people who need a blessing, people who need prayer, people I'm grateful for, people who have blessed me. And I find that's a great way to end and start the day. And you'll sleep a lot better if you've paused and thought about all the good things that occurred instead of just going to bed, as I had often done, with all of the things that I've got to do that I
All
didn't
the
get
cares of the
accomplished,
world.
all the stuff that needs to be done. And it's really easy to overlook all the stuff you've accomplished. It's just the way we're wired.
Well, I got to ask, right? So there's a lot of people out there that they want to operate in that mindset, you know, and it's the one thing to have the desire to do it, and there's then the act of actually doing it. So do you have any like good like pro tips, right? Like how do you actually structure your day or make it so that you actually do that pause? It's easy to scroll on your phone or watch TV and then you go straight to bed and then your mind's cluttered with junk. How do you actually do that?
You know, first of all, I don't always do it well, but when I try to do it structured to get the habit in that, the Miracle Morning was something that I read and tried to adapt.
That's a book.
It's a book. I'm sorry. Yeah. And just that whole idea of making it somewhat of a routine to be grateful and thankful. There's another book called The Happiness Advantage, which was a really good book. You and I got to hear that guest speaker probably 10 or 15 years ago.
If you
but
believe it.
the whole idea of, you know, how much happier people are when they have that gratitude, when they stop and make a list of the things that they're thankful for. And the book that we covered in one of the previous podcasts, The Gap and the Gain, is all about that idea of proper measurement of life and life success. So those things help me. The main thing is remembering to do it. And I do think, again, having a routine is king. Habits are what change lives. And having a attitude of gratitude, and I know that's a corny kind of sounding thing, but it's a reality. One thing I've caught people doing, and I love to do this, is when they've had a great experience in life and then they're thankful and they're saying to me how thankful they are that this happened or that happened or they got to experience this or that. Because I think sometimes that's a rarity. And I'll tell them, I said, you know what? What is great about that thing that you just said? It's the fact that you recognized that you were blessed, that you recognized that you had that
Real
great
talk.
experience. Because the other part of it is, the next thing we do after something great happens, we go on to our adventure of tackling the next project, tackling the next mission, whatever it might be. And you just forget of all the great things that have happened in your life. And especially living in this country, this great country.
Yeah. Well, and I do. I think that's real talk. I think that's, you know, very, very real. Now, I want to go back to structure and strategy because there's something that's helped me actually with.
So, Nick, what has helped you?
Hey, Aaron, how are you? Welcome back. Well, before that, I just want to, hone in on something that, I really like your framing around, taking value in somebody pausing and actually thanking somebody for a service or for help or for doing something, because I feel like in our society today, we are so hardwired to look for the problems or to find an opportunity to complain. I mean, there's so many, YouTube videos of finding the Karens out there, right? And all that kind of stuff. But when you actually get a handwritten note from a client, oh my gosh, what does that do to me, man? That
or baked goods.
Or we do accept baked goods, just it really, because there's so little of it, I feel like in our society, when it actually happens, if you're a part of our audience today, don't miss out on those little moments to thank someone. You have no idea the impact you might be having on their life.
Yeah, I mean, taking a moment, and for me, it doesn't come natural, being honest. Like, I am thankful, I am grateful for a lot of things and a lot of people, but especially years ago, I wasn't really good at telling them. And I realized through personal study, personal education, trying to mature as a person, that some people really do need to know that they've made a difference. And the biggest gift you could give them sometimes is pointing out how thankful you are for them and what they've done. And again, I haven't always been great at that, but I really do try to recognize it. And another great thing that I've been able to experience is I will have clients who are talking about one of their children or their children, either telling a story about their career success, their personal life success, some achievement, how great of a parent they are, how great of a child they are, blah, blah, blah. And I'll get to meet them at one of our functions or events or a family meeting or something, and to be able to walk over and kind of pull them aside and say, I just want to let you know what your parents think about you and what they say behind your back. You know, not everybody takes the time to say, you know, how grateful they are for you. So you are making a difference. They may not tell you, you may already know this, but I'm telling you, they talk really good behind your back. And to me,
how powerful is that?
Well, I wouldn't have done that years ago, but I recognize now people need that. You know, today you're just bombarded with negativity. Everything in the marketing world seems to be designed to, my watch is going off, seems to be designed to disturb people, upset them. Yeah. And a lot of times that motivation behind that isn't very good either. So, being aware, being awake to see those kind of things. And I, just throw this in too. My experience is those people who come into our office, who have gratitude, who walk around in Thanksgiving, so to speak, they lift the atmosphere of the office. Like, I can't 100%. Wait for them to come in to the office.
Our whole office, our whole team.
So, it is important that we recognize that our attitude affects other people. And it's an important part of having a successful life, because that is something that you can try at least to put under control.
Yeah. Man, that's so good. That really is. One of the things that I had a client a couple of years ago tell me they started doing, they said in our meetings, as we were talking about estate planning and legacy and things like that, we walk them through this, being a living legacy exercise. Yeah. And it dawned on them. They didn't tell me they did this at the time, so they were coming back in for something. And they said out of that, they realized that maybe they haven't communicated enough to their kids just how important they were and how much they valued them and how much they thought they were good parents on their own and all these things. And you know what they did, which I really love this? They literally went home and started writing, put pen to paper and started writing these notes to their kids. Yep. And now it's a practice for them.
Right.
Where they're sending, not just gifts, but like they're literally just sending these just because notes of what they really think of. I thought, man, that edification and that is so powerful.
Nick, you just gave me an idea. I did this years ago and kind of got rid of the habit of it. We give new clients this personal record organizer, a way of gathering all of their stuff so they've got everything in one place, so that if somebody ever had to step in because of an accident or injury, they could go to that one binder and everything that's important from a paperwork or understanding would be in that one book, that one place. That's still a great idea. We still do that. But in the very back, it had personal information. And what I was telling people for a number of years is, you want to give kids something more valuable than your sofa when you're gone. Tell them your story. Tell them the story of your life. Tell them the things that you have gone through, what you've experienced, all that wisdom that gets rolled up in the last half of your life. Talking with another mentor of mine, an unbelievable business person who is so passionate. We were getting together after a meeting, and just that whole sharing of what they're doing in the way of legacy for their children and all that, taking the time to do that. And what one of them were able to do, there's a husband and wife, her father was an amazing person and just a very successful business leader in an industry and with a company that you would recognize. And the way she talked about him and some of the things that she knew that he did that they discovered, and I thought, wow, a lot of people, when we think about doing our estate planning, I think we skip that personal part. Yesterday,
we do the documents and that, we check off the box.
So my dad had one brother, and he lived to almost 102 years old. And I've been communicating by email with his daughter, his only child, who's about 10 years older than me. and she started to compile things about the family history going back into the 1800s, people that I knew, but they lived in 3 centuries. Wow. And, so-and-so, where they came from, Scotland or this, that, or the other thing. And I thought, wow, this is such good stuff. That literally happened. It was in my mailbox yesterday. And I think, if you really want to have an impact, sometimes that reflection back at, like, we just had Veterans Day, and you think about, and unusual, but I got to speak with some veterans at a function today, which is ironic.
Yeah.
And, you think about their gratitude, the people who sacrificed everything. One of the speakers before me was talking about veteran benefits. And a lot of that, a big focus of that was on disability benefits. Because how many of our veterans have, through war and service, have lost part of their capacity and all that. And you know what? We run around with this freedom sometimes, just not even with any kind of gratitude. We think of, Veterans Day as a day off for some people in that, but the sacrifice that these people, so that's another area to have gratitude about.
I was just thinking, Randy, that is typically something that going around our dining room table on a Thanksgiving, as we're talking about things that we're thankful for, that's normally one of the top ones that come up in our family when we're talking about this, because, we live in this free country that it was not free. There's a cost, there was a price, there was, and there's still a price that's being paid from our armed service members that are serving today. And I just, let's take an opportunity and just say thank you. If you're listening today, thank you for your service. Thank you for caring for our country and sacrificing, because, it's not just you that's sacrificing, it's your family.
And sometimes they're paying that for the rest of their lives too, in many different ways.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to get off topic too much, but I do think, what are the things that we're grateful for? I think the ability that we live in a country where the freedom may be fought back and forth, and a lot of, slang back and forth about who's good, who's bad, all this kind of stuff. But we get to vote. We get a say in what's going on, and being thankful that we live in a country where we can do that, because there are countries, including Cuba, and when we think about some of the things that we're grateful for is, my son-in-law and his family escaped Cuba, and they understand what they escaped from, and they are some of the most grateful people on the planet.
For sure. Kat, if you're listening, we love you, buddy, and you're probably the best member in our family, probably.
Yeah, we don't like the fact that everybody likes you better than us.
Him and Aaron.
I know, right?
But, kind of dialing back, Rady, I thought I would just, I know this is going to sound rigid, but I do believe in this ideology, this philosophy of do what works.
Yeah.
Why reinvent something? Why make up something? Like, just do what works.
Right.
And sometimes we have to take a step to figure out what works for us. So for me, to form a habit or to kind of get in the right mindset, I have to schedule it.
Yeah.
Whereas you have come to a habit where you kind of wake up, think about who you're grateful for, who you could serve today, who you're praying for. You go to bed with that same mentality of, man, this person was generous. This person, I'm thankful for them in my life. All those types of wonderful, thoughts in that. I have to actually be very intentional with that, because I can easily get distracted onto other stuff, because there's always other stuff, right?
There is.
So for me to put it in my calendar, so either setting a reminder, like I've got reminders to read my Bible as an example. I've got reminders to pray. I've got reminders to, pause and reflect and think about my family. So, for me, to do what works means I've got to schedule it. If it's scheduled, it'll happen. If not, I'm just kind of hoping and wishing. So I'm hoping if somebody's struggling in this area and you want to take action, you want to take a step towards having that, mindset of thankfulness and gratitude, and that, maybe for you it's scheduling it. Talking about structure and scheduling, and I think the key word here is being mindful about it. Mm-hmm. I know you do something really mindful with the grandkids to try to instill gratitude and thankfulness and even a generous heart. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, well, one of the ideas is because of our family's belief system is that, too much is given, much shall be required. So I think there's an obligation of stewardship. And by the way, people who are good givers tend to be more grateful, thankful, happier. So there is a tie. It doesn't make any sense that if you give, you would get. I mean, that's that whole aspect of maybe Christianity and giving that is confusing. So I wanted to instill in my grandchildren the idea of giving is an important part of financial planning, of life, of living well, and that wealthy people give, and so do poor people. And sometimes in the Bible, it reflected on the poor people being bigger givers than rich people.
The widow's mite, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So one thing I started doing, I use a donor advised fund for a lot of my giving. So we'll get into that in another episode, I'm sure, but basically using a way of putting gifts into something, a donor advised fund. And then at the end of the year, when I look at all of my giving, I always try to keep back enough money that I can give each of the grandchildren a certain amount of money at the end of the year that they direct. So what I do is I say I say Poppy, which is what they call me, has to do some giving at the end of the year, and I'm looking for charities that you think deserve to be given to. And so that lets them do their own research, and it tells me a little bit about where their heart is. And it's kind of funny. I have 6 grandchildren. Some of them know immediately what they want. And others, it's very, very heartfelt as to what they want. Like they totally want these organizations given to. And others go, yeah, I got a list of about 5 right here that you might consider. But that's,
And my name might be on the last one.
And so that has a little bit to do with where they are in the maturity process. But what they are learning is that giving is a routine, a habit, and something that is, for some reason, Poppy thinks it's beneficial. Now, my grandchildren have gotten older. The oldest one is 18. Super insight into what giving is all about in that. The younger ones, they're just kind of tagging along, learning a little bit about it. But you can definitely see the heart that they have towards things that are important to them when they tell you what organization that you want to give to. And it's a great annual habit.
Oh, 100%. And, I know there's just a laundry list of them, but, thinking about even Veterans Day here recently, Pets for Vets, I know has come up a number of times. Tunnels for Towers, also another great one.
Yeah, most of those are coming from your side.
But at the end of the day, I think the heart of the exercise that you're instilling in them is how to give back to the community, how to be thankful for the community that is serving the community, right? Because so many of these organizations are doing this amazing work, and just the heart of what you're doing, I think, is incredible. I mean, it's definitely something I hope from a legacy standpoint we continue on in the future.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this as we were talking about, some people have a lot to give financially and otherwise. But some of the people I think that are the happiest in retirement are those that get into volunteerism, and they're supporting local ministries or organizations that help people who need, who have many needs. And they have that routine too of showing up and doing that and giving back to the community. And I think that there's a lot of fulfillment. A lot of us don't know how to successfully retire from traditional work without going into something, and volunteerism is a great thing to do. Getting to know the organizations that are doing works, just like I would teach my grandchildren to do a little research, find out, what organizations they believe in and think about. Those of us are sometimes exposed to organizations that really need experienced leaders.
As you're talking about all of these, people who are really giving back into the community and volunteerism, you've got to talk about RB, okay? This is a client that is, they are literally being the hands and feet of Jesus, man. They are doing something
boots
amazing.
On the ground, boots on the ground.
So go into this story a little bit. I mean, so for those of you who are listening, we've just gotten in the Southeast here, peppered with 2 hurricanes back to back, really, really nasty.
Right.
Let our audience in on what Miss RB's doing.
Yeah, so we were doing a regular review with one of our clients, and in conversation, the hurricanes came up, and I didn't know this, but what she had done, her and her boyfriend, they really were concerned about FEMA not being as involved in Asheville area as they could be. And she had one of those moments where she said, you know what? I'm retired. I'm in good shape. Maybe I don't have all the money in the world, but what I do have is good health, and I've got a truck. I've got a car, that kind of thing. Yeah. And so what her and her boyfriend did is they just loaded up a bunch of stuff and took action. Like, they didn't wait and all that. They just went up there, and apparently his family, I believe, if I understand the story right, he's got some family in the area. So he knew how devastating things were. And she sent us pictures. It was horrific. Yeah. And of course, we've seen some of that on TV, but those are always suspect. But when you have a client or a friend send you something. So they went up there, and when she left, man, that impacted me. I'm like, wow, that's a doer. That's somebody who didn't just hear about it, complain about it. They decided, I'm going to get involved. And so I reached back out to her and said, hey, we want to help a little bit. So when are you going back? And she said that they were going back. They hoped that following weekend. So I got on our neighborhood Facebook group, and we let some of our clients know that we know are cheerful givers. And we ended up loading up a bunch of stuff in the front of our office.
And I was a part of that loading crew, by the way.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Yeah, and amazing.
We had people give brand new, nice stuff that, children could use, blankets, all the stuff. Because she was there and she knew what they really needed, and not, letting us think about it. So, canned goods and bottled water, and then we got to thinking about there's only so much will fit in her car and truck, and so she said maybe some gift cards in that, because they'll fit in the car real good. So we were able to do some gifting that way, and man, she was so grateful. We got about 3 different text messages back as she discovered the things that we were able to help her with. And by the way, we want no credit for this. This was like clients and neighbors coming to the rescue, and the big thing was RB and her boyfriend taking the energy, because one thing to give some funds, to give some clothes, some canned goods, but boots on the ground, doing the work, especially when you don't have to. That was really awesome to see. And she was so grateful and let us know what a blessing it was. And man, I tell you what, this time of year, when you got people who are doing the stuff and not just talking about, not just complaining about it, man, that just blessed our office. It blessed our heart. And it also showed you that, if people are properly mobilized, like our neighbors and clients and all that, man, it's amazing. And we're doing some of that right now in the office now, again, for Musk Ministries.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so Randy, I think there's a lot of takeaways there. I think number one is some of us want to do something and we don't know what to do. Yeah. Right. Like, we've got the capable body, and, it's just really kind of turning on our, that part of our mind that opens our eyes to see where that perfect opportunity is for us. Yeah. And it might not be perfect, but just taking a step. My encouragement would be, take a step. It's not a lifelong commitment, right? But man, the return on that investment in your heart is huge. Yeah. And I think the second thing that, some of our awesome clients and community members, their bodies are maybe a little broken. They've worn out over time.
Can't. I'm sitting right here.
They can't necessarily participate in some ways maybe they used to be able to do. But man, they are so generous because they can't go to Walmart, Target, or Costco or whatever, and they're so willing to pitch in because they know that it does take a village to really take care of each other.
Right. Can I add one thing as you're talking about this? I meant to bring this up earlier, and I think it's important. When you change your view of complaining to being grateful, one of the things that happens in that experience is you begin to see other things to be grateful for. So I'm not a psychologist, but I play one sometimes. But I would say that what I've experienced too is when you have that the gift of giving, whatever it might be, whether you're praying for people, whether you're donating funds or stuff, or whether you're actively involved, whatever it might be. And when you take time to look back over the last quarter, and this would be an exercise I might have somebody consider, over the last 3 months, what are some of the things that you accomplished, or some of the things that you you're thankful for, grateful for, literally write those down and think about why they made you happy, why they're important to you in that. And what will happen is you will begin to notice other things like that in your life. So, you don't change the direction of a big ship, all at once. Sometimes it's gradual. So changing that mentality and that, we call it an atmosphere sometimes, but that belief system, that way of viewing the world, gradually sprinkling in the things that you're grateful for, more and more things to be grateful for seem to show up. I didn't, have anything to do with how this whole universe and world was set up, but I do think that's
I think you've told me you did actually.
No, I didn't.
You didn't? Are you sure? Okay.
But I do. Your world, I did. I did play a part in that. But I do think that taking that time to recognize those things, when you're looking for things, and this is, again, I'm not a psychologist, but when you begin to look for things to be grateful for, more and more of them show up. And test that, because I know that is true.
Well, and Randy, I know really where I'd like to land today is, how does this actually tie into people's personal economics?
Yeah.
Okay. Because is what a lot of people operate under is stress, guilt, fear.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're just finishing an election season, right? Mm-hmm. We have these emotions. And when these emotions, boil over in us, it's hard sometimes to make really excellent economic or financial decisions, including in portfolios and in retirement, even budgeting or spending.
Right.
Our mindset's too cluttered. Let's take a second and just talk about that correlation between having gratitude and thankfulness and making a positive economic decision, like that mindset.
Yeah. So again, most of our clients are pretty well heeled. They're in good economic situations in that. And so, as a firm, one of the things we try to do is find the legal tactical strategies that people can use. So we find often that people are doing their giving, and the heart part is good, and the good feelings and the ministry to organizations that they care about is all good. But what we can do often is we can help them optimize that. A lot of times people just don't know the rules. They don't know the law. And so they, without getting into the in-depth part of it, but knowing how to give, knowing what to give. You don't always have to give cash. And using techniques and tools within the financial industry, if you're knowledgeable about those things, then you can maneuver in such a way that not only do you bless charity and maybe bless your family, but your finances can be doing better. Your economics can do better. You can actually get more real return on your money by how you change your giving, by what it is that you give, and knowing what the law is regarding charitable giving and the tools that are out there. So that's 100%. A big part of, and I think that clients find, again, with us, in our experience with clients, is that part of knowing the rules and knowing the right questions to ask and how to properly position things is one of the more valuable things that we bring to the table. Because, investment returns are a matter of opinion, but taxes are a matter of fact. And if you can help people properly give and get the benefit that's afforded underneath our tax law, where a lot of people are still doing the giving, they don't get the benefits that they used to get under the old tax code. That's a big blessing. That's a big advantage.
Yeah. One of the things that I've experienced in working with clients and working through some of those emotions that kind of arise up, fear, uncertainty. What was the last one that you got? Your FUD factor and distress, right? Yeah. Fear, uncertainty, distress.
Well, I mean, it's normal,
but
right?
Yep. So you're operating under, all these, emotions
yes.
and these feelings, and it's not that they aren't valid or that they aren't unwarranted. Yeah. I mean, it's like for a lot of people, they're very, very real, right? But when we recognize that we're in that place where maybe anger, distraction, heaven forbid you're watching the news too much. I mean, man, that alone will cause you to think wrong, right?
That's not news. That is not news.
Whatever they call it these days. But, when you have those emotions, Randy, we can get distracted from what the purpose of the investment was, what the purpose of the financial plan was, what the purpose of the tax strategy, what was the purpose, what were we trying to accomplish, what were we driving towards. And those emotions can rob us of that. And one of the things that can take the power back is, I think, having that spirit of gratitude and that spirit of thankfulness. So when you recognize that you're in that FUD factor, you're in that place that's robbing you, pausing and reflecting. And I know, it's so old school. I remember my mom telling, count my blessings. Right.
But it is literally an exercise that somebody can do. And to the audience, that if you are really distressed right now, if you're really frustrated, if you are really, not feeling the joy, which often happens in the holiday seasons, can be some of the most depressing times for people, literally take out a pen and paper and start writing down all the things you're grateful for, and notice how things begin to change for you. And if you want to take it another level, when you've listed some of the things, and just let your mind go nuts. I mean, it could be silly, dumb stuff. It's called priming the pump. Just start writing down silly things that, one of the things I think about all the time is my health. I mean, I've been very blessed to have very good health, and, that allows me to do things. And so putting all of that stuff down on paper, and then the next step, if you really want to take an exercise from this podcast, the second thing I would do is I would list why that's important. Like, you've listed these things, and then just pausing for a second and say, well, why is that important to me? I was able to help so-and-so organization. Why is that important? Well, I really believe that these people are underserved, or, there's no other way that these folks would have the benefit, or whatever it is. So what is the thing that you're thankful for? Why is it important? And then the third column, like if you were doing it on a piece of paper, the third column would be, what next? Like, what's the next thing that I would do about that? Would it be more involvement, more giving, find another organization? Like that next action that you would do. And then if you want to go nuts, put it on the calendar. 4-step, put it on the calendar. Like you're saying, setting an alarm or something like that. Now you've got kind of an organized way, not only to make the gratitude, and every time you find yourself getting sucked into that emotional down, that frustration, all the stresses of life, pause, remember this episode, take out a piece of paper, make the list. Corny as it is, I promise it works. I've done it over and over again. It sure does.
And Randy, that list is, what you're thankful for.
Right.
Why is it important?
Yeah.
And then it's next steps.
Yes.
And put it on the calendar.
Yeah,
man, that's powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, that really is. For our audience today, I know this was a little bit of a different episode, but the reality is we think it's important. What is it that you're thankful for? What is it that you're grateful for? I'm telling you, it matters. It's important to pause, reflect, and it's amazing that it can really lead to the next action. Any final thoughts, Randy?
Aaron, we missed you today, and we look forward to having you on another episode and leading us. And Nick, thank you for coming up with the idea to talk about this during the holiday seasons that are coming up, and how important Thanksgiving is to our family and our business. And one of the big things we're thankful for is the folks who are listening today, and especially our clients who have entrusted us with their finances.
Yeah. We are certainly thankful for you. I remember when I first got in this business, one of the first things Randy taught me, he said, son, take care of your clients. If you don't have any clients, you don't have a business. Take care of your clients. So we're thankful for all of you out there. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's show, but you may have questions for our coaches, and they can be emailed at connect@yourretirementcoach.com. If you know someone that needs to hear this episode, we encourage you to share it. As a reminder, the content of this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be construed as advice. On behalf of our coaches, we want to thank you for listening and for being coachable.
Yeoman's Consulting Group, a registered investment advisor YouTube channel based in Marietta, Georgia. We strive to provide comprehensive wealth management services for every stage of the journey. This platform is solely for informational purposes and is not offering advisory services or sales of securities. Investing involves risk and possible loss of principal capital. Comments by viewers or recognitions are no guarantee of future investment outcomes and do not ensure that a viewer will experience a higher level of performance or results. Public comments posted on this site are not selected, amended, deleted, or sorted in any way. If applicable, certain editing of personal, identifiable information and misinformation may be deleted. The opinions expressed herein are as of the date of publication and are subject to revision due to changes in the market or economic conditions and may not necessarily come to pass.